The other is to conceive of the world only inwardly in free imaginations. All this is in its beginnings and up to the present has developed in admirable, beneficent ways, but it also has a strong tendency to become the reverse. Just as Renaud's Life of Jesus is a masterpiece of external description, so are Soloveyev's representations of the Christ being the highest that could have been created in this sphere in the present day. They are wholesome impulses. Nevertheless, they represent the urge that, in its one-sided cultivation, would drive back each man into his own house. In contrast, a knowledge must arise through the science of the Spirit, a knowledge that can be embraced in two statements that I should especially like to inscribe into your souls today. The first is, a man can never come to a really good, upright, strong personal inner life without having the warmest interest in other men. All inner life that we seek remains false and seductive if it does not go hand in hand with a kindly interest in the character and qualities of other people. We ought straightway to take it for granted that we find ourselves inwardly as man when we take an interest in the characteristics of others. Entering with love into the individualities of other people, which is at times united with a deep experience of the tragedy of life, is what can bring us to self-knowledge. The self-knowledge we seek through delving into ourselves will never be true. We deepen our own inner nature by meeting other people with full interest. But this statement, as it has now been expressed here, implies something that cannot be directly carried into effect because it must interact with the other statement. The other statement is, we never gain a true knowledge of the outer world if we do not resolve to examine the universally human in ourselves and learn to know it. Therefore, all natural science of modern times will be a purely mechanical science and knowledge, not true but false, inverted, unless it is based on the knowledge of man. In the science that was described by me as occult science, in the book An Outline of Occult Science, the knowledge of the outer world was sought for together with the knowledge of the human being. We find the inner through the outer through the inner. I will bring forward next time what remains to be said regarding certain present-day phenomena as they come to light in other works such as the so-called Life of Jesus by David Friedrich Strauss. Today, I should only like to add that when, twice 7 years ago, our impulse to form a theosophical movement began to work, the movement later became anthroposophical. The intention was that all the activity that went on in this movement would be founded on these two principles. The without should kindle self-knowledge. The within should teach knowledge of the world. In these two statements, or rather in their realization in the world, lies true spiritual insight into existence, and the impulse to real human love, to a love filled with insight. A realization of what lies in these statements should be sought for through our society. If in these twice 7 years all had come to pass that has been striven for, if the opposing powers in our time had not been strong enough to hinder many things, then today I should have been able to speak of certain secrets of existence quite differently from the way in which it is possible to do so. Then this society would have become ripe enough for things to be said in its midst today that could be spoken nowhere else. In that case, there would also be a guarantee that these secrets of existence would be safeguarded in the right way. What has happened in our society has shown, however, that it is precisely in the matter of safeguarding things that it fails through all manner of contrary interests that have attached themselves to the movement. There is really no longer a safeguard today, at least, no thorough safeguard that what is said among us is not made use of, and, as frequently has happened, clothed by many persons in such feelings, in any way they please in the outer world. Since this is so, when we examine the society, we find that, in looking back over the twice 7 years, in many respects it has remained behind. Such introspection should not lead to a loss of courage, but it should lead us to be discontent with reveling in the possession of a certain degree of knowledge, and also to developing that deep earnestness in life that will lead us to accept truth in the form in which it must be communicated in our age. When it is possible for outstanding members of our movement who are writers to think in the manner revealed recently, then it is clear that other and deeper impulses must now awaken within the souls of those who find themselves in our society than have awakened hitherto. We do not join together merely to possess agreeable facts of knowledge. Rather should it be that we unite together in order to carry on a sacred service to truth in the interest of mankind's evolution. then, indeed, the right knowledge will come to us. Then these facts will not be restrained by all sorts of prejudices. At any rate, let us receive at least into our hearts this ideal that perhaps even yet such a society may arise as is necessary in the wide world of prejudice, a society that permeates and interpenetrates our times. What I am saying is naturally not directed in the slightest degree toward anyone in particular, nor toward any single soul among us. Its intention is solely to emphasize the ideal of knowledge of our epoch, the ideal of the service of mankind we should recognize as necessary. With the same warmth with which I spoke here about 8 days ago, I should like again today to stress what must not be forgotten in our circle, namely, that it is essential to modern humanity for a group of people to exist to whom it is possible to speak in the most open and candid manner of the whole content of truth that needs to be revealed today without stirring up prejudicial emotions. We must accept it as our karma that enmity has lifted up its head in our circle, enmity from out of the unintelligent feelings, ideas and customs of the time. We should not be deceived for a moment. This is our karma. Then, from the very recognition of it, the impulse for the right will arise. In particular, we must not so often forget as quickly as we do what we receive, nor let so much of what is put into concise sentences embracing truths separately explained, merely pass over us. Rather, let us preserve it all in our hearts. In our circle, the longing to forget often what is most important of all is widely diffused. So we have not yet become the living organic society that we need, or rather that humanity needs. To achieve this, it is necessary above all that we should acquire a memory for what we can learn through life in the society.